that was when Dad and I had just first met. That was at a friend of his place.
Cool.
At a barbecue we went to.
It's a nice backyard.
Yeah, what about us? What do you reckon?
You look heaps younger.
We do. Is that your favourite picture of us?
No, probably this one. I like this one.
Oh, yeah, that one. That was when Dad and I went to a costume party as the Avengers. That's a cool picture.
Yeah.
So do you think I'm a good mum?
Yep. I'm glad you and Dad stopped fighting.
Yeah, it's a lot better now, isn't it?
Yes, much better.
On our radio show, Steve and I talk about the worst side of marriage and relationships. I mean, we talk about cheating, and we talk about couples lying to each other, and we talk about verbal abuse and even domestic abuse. So I guess some people might be surprised that we also play love songs in the show, because Steve and I have been through this and really have faced about the worst that I think anyone can go through in a marriage and come out the other side. It means that we have a certain understanding, and that is that just because a couple's fighting doesn't mean that they're not in love anymore. You know, love isn't separated from the issue. Love is the issue.
Sometimes I see people who I know and they say, "Hey, I saw you online," and I think, wow, I would never have guessed you were having relationship troubles. But they must be, because otherwise they wouldn't have found us online. So what we see in the outside world can be something so different to what's going on in people's personal lives. And online, Kim and I can be there and help people get to someplace more positive. We'd really like to be there for everybody who needs us. And I know that's impossible, but if I could make that happen somehow, I would.
Steve and I are not therapists, but we still have a really surprising number of professionals contact us, psychologists and psychiatrists and even marriage counsellors. A lot of them getting material for their clients, but also a large number of them looking for help and answers for themselves. And I think that surprised me in the beginning, but maybe not so much now, because I really have come to understand that I think the world is ready now for lay professionals in the area of psychology, maybe perhaps in the same way that lay preachers have become important in church or have always had a role in church, because we've actually been through this, because, you know, we have experienced the bad side of marriage, and we have something unique to offer, I think, because of that.
I don't think it's an academic you want when you have a love-hate relationship and it's on the rocks. I think if I had a tumour or something, I'd like to go and see a doctor. But when your relationship's in trouble, I think you want to find out how to fix it from someone who has fixed it before. And I tell you, that's Kim. And I always loved Kim, but, you know, I can't tell you how much she's learned and grown.
We get a bit of criticism now and then. I usually feel it's from people who really don't understand our message or what it is that we're really saying. And the criticism that's levelled at us is that we're encouraging people to stay in abusive relationships. And that really isn't our message at all, because if somebody wants to leave their marriage or wants to leave their partner, we actually offer advice to help them do that and to actually get closure on the conflict. And we certainly are not judgmental in any way about someone who wants to leave or somebody who wants to divorce. But I also think that, you know, since maybe the 50s and before, when people were trapped in loveless marriages and it wasn't socially acceptable for people to divorce, and I think that was a bad thing, and the generation that came before mine really fought very hard to make divorce an acceptable option, and the world, I guess, owes them something for that. But I also feel that the pendulum has probably swung too far the other way, and that means that now people who do want to work on their relationship and are having difficulties with their marriage, but maybe are lacking the skills that they need to make their marriage work, are not being taught these skills or offered the help that they need. Instead, they really are very much pressured that they should just divorce, and that perhaps maybe there's something wrong with them, or they're very foolish if they don't. And just in the same way as I don't think anyone should be forced to stay in a marriage that they don't want to be part of, it's also wrong to insist that people leave, or insist that people divorce, and particularly to make out like that's an easy solution, when I don't think it really is the easy solution that it often is pretended to be. And you see that where people go through multiple failed relationships, and at what point does the lack of their relationship skills and their emotional intelligence skills become addressed? We are suggesting that it's valid to do that when a relationship or a marriage is struggling. It's our experience that marriages can be turned around, and it's as valid time as any to work on those skills. It's easier to work on relationship skills when you're in relationship. When you're off on your own, it's very easy to say, oh, I've got it all sorted out now and I know better now. But then often people will find when they get back into the next relationship, maybe they didn't learn it as well as they thought they did. What's important is that the conflict be resolved. That's important for everyone, and it's especially important for children. If their parents divorce and the conflict continues, that's probably, well, it is statistically the worst outcome that can happen for the children, and they can really end up in a minefield of relationship problems and different relationships with step-parents and whatnot, that's even difficult and uncomfortable for their parents and the adults in their life to manage, let alone for them to know how to manage comfortably. But just in the same way, if a couple stay together for the children's sake but they continue to fight and the conflict isn't resolved, this is really not healthy for the children that are involved at all. So really the issue is not so much whether a couple separates or not, but is just getting down to what it's going to take to actually resolve the conflict.
Online we can be there for people and offer our private story and hopefully help them get to someplace more positive.